Hi, everybody. John Huber here from the Maryland Education Network, and I'm following up on this horrible shooting out in Michigan. The reason why it interests me in particular is the school's position in all this. Um, and I can tell you that the more that's coming out little by little, the the more that this does not look good for this school. From what I can gather, there is outrage in this community, and there's some real concern. It's unfortunate that we have kind of seen a lot of these types of incidents in the past 15, 20 years. And when we do, usually these school communities kind of rally together. They have these big vigils and these gatherings and things. I could be wrong, but I'm sensing that that's not the case here. The responsibility of the school is going to come down to the role of the guidance counselor. I mean that in a larger sense, not this particular guidance counselor. Because here's what's probably lining up on each side. The counselor in question and counselors in general are probably going to say, yeah, we thought this kid should have gone home, but we don't have the authority to send the child home. Well, then the next question would be, who does? Well, the principal or the assistant principal, in particular the principal. And then the next question would be, well, why didn't you call for or notify the assistant principal or the principal that you had such concerns? And therein lies the thing. Now, what this will then bring out is the relationship between guidance. And when I say guidance, I mean the counselors. It's guidance office, counselors. It's all the same terms. Between guidance and between the administration, there's often a little tug of war or a little clash between those two. And here's why. In many cases, guidance people feel that they are not disciplinarians, and by all the rules, they are not. And when administrators sometimes will rely on guidance counselors to help with that end of things that they do, guidance counselors don't like that because that's not part of their description. And I don't mean like, well, it's not my job. I mean that they are, by definition, student support. They're there to support the children. They're there to guide them. So when an issue like this comes up, counselors feel the need to just kind of go, well, in my opinion, well, I'm not a disciplinarian. I can't just send this kid home. So then the next logical step is, well, when something like that does cross your desk, you need to report it to the administration. And sometimes those administrative guidance relationships can be very strained. And they are strained because in many cases, each kind of relies on the other to help with their part of their job description. So the same thing would, I've been in the situation a million times where, a counselor would ask me to, I got this, I got that, and and I'm like, oh, look, I got an observation in a half hour. I got, what's the problem? Well, she's threatening to beat her up. I'm like, oh, have a mediation and see if you can put it, And then they'll say, well, I did a mediation, and this kid is still threatening this one. They're still sending stuff out to him. I'm like, all right, And then the more that they get that kind of a reaction from an assistant principal, the less likely they are to bring things to their attention, because they don't want to take it off the person who writes their evaluation. So they say they try and handle as much of it as they can. Same thing holds true on the administrative side. On the administrative side, when we get some conflicts and whatnot, we call the counselor and we say, hey, I need you to help me try and mediate this. And then they'll go, well, what do you want me to do? He threatened her and she did anything and he didn't do anything. There's nothing I can do. I'm not a disciplinarian. So there's a lot of that goes back and forth. So then the question comes, what are the policies? What is the procedures for getting through for dealing with threats on a large scale like this? Why is a guidance counselor on his or her own? And apparently there was a dean of students. Now I don't know what his role in this legally just defined role is. Why were they dealing with this, and why was this not brought to an administration? I don't know, and I tell you that that's gonna be the issue. So the issue is going to be, what are the roles of these people? Just a horrible thing. The teacher, the district sent out some information to the students of how they're going to reopen, and they're all going back. Apparently, the eighth graders in the middle school and whatnot are going back, and some other kids. Not the high school. High school is not going back yet. But it's interesting, the changes. There'll be more law enforcement. They've hired a private security firm. They're reviewing policies, which is very normal. There's some more software programs they're working with, which help kind of sort out and flag some of these inappropriate things on social media. Some trauma response, therapy dogs, that kind of stuff. But what I also find interesting is that there's no backpacks allowed. A lot of schools have that policy, no backpacks, period. And most would argue for this reason. And I don't know what the story is with this school, but I'd be willing to bet that the topic of backpacks was probably brought up a few times over the years why are we allowing these kids to walk around with these backpacks? It's not safe. We don't know what's in them. And I'm sure on the other side, the administration probably said, well, you know what, how are we going to, it's tough to enforce, and, it's why do we have to keep making a big deal over these little things? Just let them use the backpacks. I don't know the intricacies of this particular school, but I can probably tell you what that argument or what those meetings were like over the years with backpacks. I could be wrong. It could be, maybe it was never an issue. I don't know. Then I also found out, I did some reading today, that apparently like 2 weeks before the shooting, there was there were some parents. Apparently, they were the plaintiffs in one of these suits. The parents called the school or notified the school, hey, my kids are concerned. They're seeing all this stuff on social media, et cetera, et cetera. Well, apparently, one of either the principal or I'm not sure who it was, said in an email, he said something like, I know I'm being redundant here. There is absolutely no threat to the high school. Now, I don't think that was the same incident, but it was relatively short ago. So apparently there were a lot of these things bubbling through social media. It would start, what that does is it starts to show a pattern that there was threats going along, and there were some things bubbling under the surface that apparently they didn't take seriously, and they should have. So getting back to my original point here, this is going to come down to the role of the guidance counselor. It's going to come down to that, and the counselor's going to say, I didn't have the authority to do anything. And then they're going to say, well, you should have notified someone who did have the authority to do something. Why not? Was there a disconnect between? And that's when you get into these, they say, we're going to do an investigation and all this thing, and everyone says, well, let's investigate. We know what happened. These are the kinds of things that they're going to start looking at. They're going to start looking at the relationship between guidance and administration. Was it strained? Was this guidance counselor afraid to go to the assistant principal? This dean of students, why didn't he go and say something to somebody? What is his responsibility? What is his role? What is his legal authority? And I also, lastly, before I go, I got a few comments from some folks who said things like, this one lady commented, I'm speechless. I'm without speech on this one. She said apparently because of the whole COVID thing, they were sending kids home for not wearing masks. And apparently the school system would not accept no for an answer. That's what someone told me. I can't say it was true or not. I just can't imagine what that must be like now to be the school, is that if you're not wearing a mask properly, you absolutely have to go home, and no is not an option. And when something like this occurs, that apparently the parents could opt out. So, was this kid wearing a mask? This just gets worse for this school. And I'm not trying to pass blame anywhere. I'm just saying that the more this comes out, the more this is deeply troubling. I feel for the counselors and teachers involved. They're suing the teachers. I don't know what they're suing the teachers for. They're the victims as well. Just a terrible, terrible incident. Legally, guidance counselors generally can't do disciplinary things, and that's why that they're saying that. I also noticed the school hasn't said a whole lot of anything, and they're probably keeping their mouth shut because of legal problems. Just a horrible incident all around, and I'm keeping my eye on it. I will let you know what I think, but I really do think this is going to come down to, ultimately, is besides the normal stuff, he was violating the rules, he brought a gun, this, and he is responsible. This child and this child alone is responsible. But what is the responsibility? I'm saying this child alone. Maybe there were some others who, by their actions or inactions, may have contributed. And that's when we get into all those legal definitions, and it's a tough one. So I just the more this comes out, the more this school is running into some trouble. So anyway, thanks for listening. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll read that lawsuit a little bit and see what they say, and I'll try and give me your comments. I love hearing your comments. They're wonderful comments. My goal here is professional discourse. All right, we're not gonna have I'm not gonna have name calling. I'm not gonna sit here and start yelling and screaming about this is right and you need to do this. I saw some guy on the news the other day. He was a parent, so you have to understand where he's of a child who I think was killed in the Parkland incident in Florida. And he's yelling and screaming, "These schools has blood on their hands," and I guess if I were in his shoes, I probably would feel the same way. But I try and provide an opportunity for people to say and to have some discussion. Well, let's try and take the emotion out of it. Let's take a look at this. But early indicators or recent indicators show that this school is they're in some trouble. They're in some trouble. I can't imagine what it's like to be there. Just imagine it is your worst nightmare if you are these people. But then again, they probably should have taken some of these things a little more seriously. So anyway, thanks for listening, and shoot me some messages. Let me know what you think. I greatly appreciate it. Have a nice day.